everyone, this is Brian from activemelody.com. Now we're going to continue our look at the natural minor scale in this lesson, and this is really kind of a building block lesson off of the previous lesson. And so as a reference for those of you that might have missed it, that's EP022. So if you go to the Active Melody website, you can find that number, and that's the lesson I'm referring to as the previous lesson. But in this one, the jam track that's included is kind of cool because there's actually two keys. It starts off in a minor key, in an F sharp minor, and then there's a chorus part which will switch over to an A major key. So we're going to go from a minor key to a major key, and I want you to see what happens from a solo perspective or a scale perspective when that happens, when there's a key change in a song, and that happens often. So you need to know what to do with it. And so anyway, we're going to break that down, and there's an interesting thing that happens when you switch from an F sharp minor to an A major, but we'll get into that in just a minute. If you want to download the tablature or the jam track for this lesson, you can do so at www.activemelody.com. Let's take a look at the lesson. Alright, so real quick before we get started, I wanted to go over scales again. Now in the previous lesson, I showed you an A minor scale. We had a jam track that was in A minor. That's EP022 again as a reference on the Active Melody website. But you can remember that since if you play an A minor chord, your bar goes down here on the 5th fret, and that becomes your root fret. And by root fret, when we start our scale, you'll notice that most of the notes are happening on that root fret as we kind of walk up that little box pattern. You can see that my pointer finger keeps going back to it as a reference. So that's kind of what we call the root fret. Now, so I'm not going to go over those notes again because I covered that in the previous lesson. But since this song is in a different key, we're in F sharp minor. So F sharp, for those of you that, here's an F. So you're familiar with an F down in first position. If we slide everything up one fret, that's an F sharp now. It's an F sharp major. We remove our middle finger on a major bar chord, we get the minor version of that chord. So that's the F sharp minor chord. Now, I'm only showing you the chord so that you can see, okay, so we're barring the 2nd fret. So the 2nd fret then becomes your root fret for this scale. So that scale would look like this. So that's the F sharp minor natural scale and what that looks like. Same thing as what we learned in the previous lesson. It's just everything is slid down 3 frets because of the root fret thing that I explained. Okay, so that's that. Now, here's another cool thing that happens though. When we're playing the song, there's a chorus part. I think of it as a chorus, but it switches to the key of A major. So even though the first chord in that is a D, that's kind of a transition chord. What happens after the D is it falls on an A, and you can tell that it sort of resolves on that A. Your ear kind of tells you. So it's not in the key of D, even though that's the first chord in the chorus part. The key itself is actually A major. So now let me show you the A major scale. The A major scale, so the F sharp minor scale, remember we started here on the root fret, the 2nd fret, 6th string, when we started walking up. If we play those same notes in the same scale, but we start it in a different place, so we're going to start it on the 5th fret, 6th string. Remember, that was one of the notes. It was the 3rd one. One of the notes in the F sharp minor. Watch what happens if we start here instead of here. Listen. You hear that? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And you can keep going. And those are the same notes in the F sharp minor. Isn't that bizarre? The only difference is since we started here on the 5th fret, we to your ear it changes the reference point. So if the reference point is here, everything sounds kind of sad. If the reference point is here, it sounds kind of happy or major. weird thing how that happens. But so really in learning that one, the pattern here for the F sharp minor, you've actually learned the A major scale as well. So you can take a lot of those same licks and play them no matter which key the song is in. So in this jam track, it actually you have two. So you can start off in the F sharp minor and play those F sharp minor licks, kind of bluesy, and then it comes into this, this major chorus sound, and you can play a lot of those same licks and they're going to work. So anyway, the licks that I included with this, I wanted to make sure that they covered that, and so that you can see a lot of shared notes from the major and the minor scale. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and play the jam track, and I'm just going to talk through a few more of these points, and then after that we'll break down and get into the details of lick 1. Alright, so I've got the jam track playing in the background, as you can hear. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start off by walking up the scale. So we're going to start off with this F sharp minor. You can see how any of those notes work. Now watch this, stay in the same scale. Cool. So all I'm doing is I'm staying in those same parameters, but you can tell obviously the feel of the vibe of the song changed. Now what's cool is you can take some of the licks from the previous lesson and apply them here as well. So in fact, I would encourage you to do that. All you have to do is to transcribe them is move them down. You know where your root fret is. So you remember one of those licks was, let me just show you what it would sound like. See how you can take those licks and use them over and over again. So anyway, have fun with this one. You can just use these licks as words. Think of them that way, and it's up to you to put them together and make a sentence. Alright, so let's take a look at this first lick. Now, one thing I want to point out is I have some tremolo added as an effect, and that's something you can get. You can get there's a tremolo. There's lots of tremolo pedals, and anyway, it's something a lot of amplifiers have it built in as well. But it's a minimum. I don't use a lot of effects. People always ask me about that. How do you get your tone and things? And typically, I have a little bit of overdrive, a little bit of reverb, and I try to keep it a little dirty, but not too dirty. And then every now and then I'll throw in something like the tremolo. You can hear how it gives it that sort of effect. So anyway, I thought that it made sense to use that effect on this. So, alright, so this first lick, the first thing I do is I start here on the 4th fret, 3rd string, and I hit it once. And you can see that it just sort of keeps going. And what I notice my right hand. And now, the reason I'm showing the right hand is you can see I'm not picking it over and over again. I just kind of picked it once. If you have an amplifier that has some sustain, that'll have a nice sound. Even with some feedback, that would sound kind of cool. But what I'm doing from a bending perspective is I tend to use 2 fingers when I bend. So really it's the ring finger is doing most of the work, but the middle finger is back there behind, sort of helping support it. And I even take my pointer finger actually and kind of dig in too. So you're leveraging all 3 fingers, but this is the note that you're fretting here. Is that 3rd string on the 4th fret. And so what you're trying to do, the challenge here, is to hit the note every time. So what you're doing is you're bending it, releasing the pressure, bending it, releasing it. But every time you bend it, you gotta try and hit that note. Otherwise, it's gonna sound really, really off. So you're doing a full bend, and a full bend is going up 2 frets. So from where you start. So 1, 2. That's the note you're trying to match. And you can only do that really with your ear. There's no other. When you're bending, you just gotta kind of hear it. But your ear will tell you if it's sharp or flat. And so some of that, there's some muscle control. That happens, and you'll get better with bending. Now, if you're on an acoustic guitar, you may not want to try that lick. You could possibly do it if you're really strong, or you have light strings maybe. But this one is really made for an electric guitar. Now, after that, it sort of trails off, and you can count them. It's all in the tab, the number of them. But after that, I go. And what I'm doing there, that's kind of Albert King. And what I'm doing there is I'm going to the 2nd fret, 3rd string with my pointer finger. That's the first note, and you hit that one real fast, and then you come and land down here on the 4th fret, 4th string. Notice the pick. I'm doing a downstroke and an upstroke, and applying some vibrato. So if I were you, I wouldn't go any farther than that. I would just try and get that down first. And if that's too much, or it just sounds corny, or it hurts your hand, come up with an alternative. You could go. You could skip a few of them if you have to. So the second challenge is going to be that hitting that real quick. And start off slow. If you try and get it accurate first, and then speed will come over time. But it's just a downstroke and then an upstroke, downstroke, upstroke. And once you get that little quick, you'll use that a lot. I use it especially on these higher notes. Very Albert King thing to do. Albert King would play left-handed, and he tuned down a half step. So kind of a different setup for him, but that's the general effect that you're trying to achieve. So. And then to kind of close that out, almost like if you're singing, you're kind of running out of breath, I'd go back and hit that 3rd string on the 2nd fret. Like that. Just a quick, and I'm kind of muting it with my right hand. Let me play that through that slowly, just that part, and so you have that as a reference. Okay, now after that, notice you're sort of, or my finger sort of naturally goes to almost like a bar position. And I find myself doing that a lot on the 2nd fret because that is our root fret. And there's so many shared notes that it almost makes sense to kind of always be ready for a bar. So after that, you hit that 3rd string on the 2nd fret. You're going to come down to the 4th string. This time I am barring. And the notes, we're going to play strings 4 and 3, but we're going to hammer on. So there's a bar there, and really kind of barring the first 4 strings on the 2nd fret, hammering on from the 2nd fret to the 4th fret on the 4th string. And then after that, I'm going to come back on the 2nd fret again and play the 3rd string. So you can see why the bar is important now. After that, I come back to the 4th fret, 4th string. Then I take my middle finger and I reach over and play the 5th string on the 4th fret, like that. So let me back up and explain what just happened. So slowly it's. And then after that, I take my pointer finger and I come over here to the 2nd fret third or second fret fourth string. And that's sort of the final note to close out that thought. So let me back up and play that second part slowly. Let me play it slower than that. Alright, let me play the whole thing from the beginning up to that point. I'll do it slowly. And that little lick, by the way, you'll use that again. I use that same lick to close out the second time through. Alright, so then we come to this part which goes. And what I'm doing there is I'm barring the first two strings on the second fret. And this is kind of a Chuck Berry thing. That you just, this is like rock and roll guitar solo 101. You use this little box all the time. It's probably, I think of it as almost home base, really, in playing a solo, because there's so much you can do here. But anyway, barring the first two strings on the second fret, then I'm going to take my ring finger on the fourth fret, third string, and I'm going to do not a full bend, but you're almost to a full bend, but it's happening kind of slowly too. And before it gets to where it needs to get, then you're going to go ahead and play string 2 and then string 1. You know, with this bar here on the second fret. So it's like this. Hear that? Now the right hand is going down, down, up, down, down on the second string, up on the first string. Okay? So now after you hit the first string, you're going to come back to the second string on the second fret. Now after you hit that string, you're going to notice what happens. I'm going to reach over here with my ring finger to the 5th fret second string, and I'm going to bend. I'm going to bend up, almost another full bend there. And then I'm going to, before that one closes out, I'm going to take my pointer finger and come to the 2nd fret first string again. So let's slow down, back up, let's repeat that. So here's what we have. Okay, one more time. Now, after you hit that first string on the 2nd fret, we're going to come back to the 2nd string on the 5th fret, back to the 2nd string on the 2nd fret, let me do it slowly. After that 2nd string, 2nd fret, we're going to come back to the 3rd string on the 4th fret, and we're going to do a bend and release. 2nd fret, 3rd string, 4th fret, 4th string, 2nd fret, 4th string. So, okay, so let me back up and we'll play all of that. So what we have is, and then after that, it's that quick little Albert King thing. Again, so while I'm in place there on the 2nd fret, 4th string, I'll go ahead and kind of bar that so that I can play the 3rd string on the 2nd fret real quickly. That one's the one you do quick. And then you come back to the 4th fret, 4th string. Okay, so let me do the whole thing. then I close out that lick with a, and I won't show you that again. That's just an exact note for note repeat of what I did the first time. All right. So, and you have the tab for this too. So let's back up and break down all of it again. I'll cover all of it again. Just break it down, but I'll go through the whole thing slowly. So here we go. Okay, so then after that, then we switch to that major key, the A major, and you get a happier sound. And for that, what I'm doing is I'm doing more bends here on the 4th fret 3rd string. I'm going to do a full bend, and then while that's in position, I'm going to hit it again. I'm going to stop it. I'm going to hit the note, stop it, and then hit it again. And so when I hit it again, I'm releasing it. Now all that happens kind of quickly, so it's like this. As opposed to going, you're going. And that's kind of a country thing to do. But a lot of this, it sounds simple when you hear it, and you think, well, there's not much to that. But when you try and do it, you realize that what you're learning here in a lot of these licks is just a lot of control with the left hand, and that's really what makes an articulate player, in my opinion, is learning how to do those things. So after you release it, you come down to the 2nd fret, 3rd string, and then you just kind of repeat it and go. When you're repeating it, though, you're doing a bend and release. So let me repeat that so it goes. One more time. Okay. And then I repeat that again. And then what I do is I play this thing that goes. And what I'm doing there, I just wanted to show that note as in that scales. I wanted to show that note because that's the same note. Remember when you do the minor, F sharp minor scale. Same note that you would play as in the major scale. I just thought that was interesting. So anyway, I wanted to make sure to work that note into a run somewhere. So that's why it's in there. So so anyway, what we have, we're going to start that with the 4th fret 4th string, and then we're going to come to the 2nd fret 3rd string with a pointer finger. I'm going to slide down to the 1st fret on the 3rd string, back to the 2nd fret, up to the 4th fret, all on the 3rd string, back to the 2nd fret, back to the 1st fret, and then we're going to end that little run on the 4th fret 4th string. So the timing of it sounds like this. And when you hear the music, it'll be in context and it'll make a lot more sense. So now that time I hammered on between the 2nd fret and the 4th fret. I do it little different every time, but you don't have to hammer it on. You can play it straight. But I think the hammer on, or you could even slide up. Just think about different ways you can get to a note. Sometimes that's what can really make it sound good. So okay, so that's the first time through. Second time through, there's a lot of repetition. That's the same. That's the same. And then to close that out, I go. And for that, what I'm doing is I'm playing, starting on the 2nd fret, 3rd string. We're going to do another bend on the 4th fret, 3rd string. Then on this, I'm going to match that note, so I'm going to bend on the 4th fret, and then I'm going to come up here, kind of that same bar again on the 2nd fret, but I'm going to play the 2nd string. And I'm not going to go to the 1st string this time. I'm going to go to the 3rd fret on the 2nd string. And again, I wanted to work in that note as part of that scale. So that's where those two are in the F sharp minor scale. And in the in the A major scale you have, see those same two notes. So they work in either of those scales. So after I do that, then I'm going to do this little hammer-on pull-off thing where I go. So notice I'm just picking that once, and I'm hammering onto the 3rd fret, and I'm just kind of flicking the string as I pull my finger off. The 2nd fret, 2nd string stays down the whole time. And that's how it should sound. Then we're going to come back to the 4th fret on the 3rd string. Back to the 2nd fret on the 3rd string. 4th fret, 4th string. 2nd fret, 4th string. And then we'll close it out on the 4th fret, 4th string. So now let me back up and play that whole major scale part. I'll play it slowly so you have this as a reference. Okay, and that's really all there is to that whole first little solo part. So now let me, just so you have it as a reference, I'll play through the whole thing slowly so you have it all together, and then I'll follow this up with a version played with the jam track at normal tempo. So here we go. You could repeat it from there or do whatever you want. So that's the end of lick 1. Hopefully you've got something out of that, and again, remember you can mix and match these things, so it's not something you have to memorize and play it exactly as it stands. And try and take this jam track, this would be the challenge for you. Try and take some of the licks from the previous lesson, EP022, and apply them to this lesson, because I think you'll be surprised to see that what it sounds like that they do in fact work, at least in the minor key portion of it. So, okay.